Ted Bundy murdered my dad's friend in 1974 while on his reign of terror in Utah. At least, Bundy admitted to killing her just before his execution, but police were never able to locate her body. That's the topic of just one episode on Straight Up Enigmas, a podcast to explore the unexplained. Spine-tingling supernatural stories, historical mysteries, and true crime cases are all things to expect when you tune in to our show. We discuss the impossible murder of Julia Wallace, share terrifying true stories from our listeners about sleep paralysis, and explore Cleopatra's lost tomb. I'm Jaden McKell, and I'm the host of Straight Up Enigmas. Our bite-sized, bi-weekly episodes focus on the world's strangest mysteries. Sacred and Sonic Geometry, The Mistress of Murder Farm, Turkmenistan's Door to Hell, The Curse of the horror film The Omen, and much more. Listen and subscribe at Apple Podcasts or wherever you find podcasts.
Hi, I'm Laura.
And I'm Jo.
And this is Crime Divers.
Hello everybody, welcome back.
Hi.
Oh Laura, grab your phone.
Oh, okay, why?
So that we can read out a review.
Oh, sorry, I was totally not ready for that.
We're totally not prepared today.
No, totally not.
Yeah, we'll give somebody another shout out for giving us a nice review.
Okay.
So find one.
Yes,
I
found one. So this is from another podcast called Boozed and Confused.
Boozed and Confused, yeah. They're a good podcast.
They are from the US of A.
Yeah.
And he said, one of my new favourites. I thoroughly enjoyed catching up on episodes of Crime Divers. It's refreshing to hear takes on cases that I've never really heard of before. Jill and Laura have a fantastic dynamic that keep you engaged. Do you know what I've noticed? A lot of our reviews that they all seem to say that we do cases that they haven't heard of, which is quite good.
But I think I know the reason for that.
Okay, why?
Because I think the people that are saying that are American, and that's when we were only doing British cases. Because, a lot of our reviews have obviously been before we were doing worldwide.
Right.
So I think that it seems to be the American, because the UK cases, I think quite a lot of UK people do know about.
Oh, well, I don't know, like the ones that we've done, I hadn't known about that.
Yeah, but you're not, you don't really listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff, do you?
No, that's true. I mean, I'm very interested in true crime, obviously, because of this podcast. But I suppose
you're not a die-hard fan.
No, I'm not a die-hard fan. I'm becoming more of a die-hard fan, though.
Well, you're obviously learning more. But I mean, it's me that kind of listens to. I listen to podcasts every day. Every night when I go to bed, I'll put on a podcast to listen to. Usually one of the other podcasts that I sort of interact with on Twitter and things like that. So I listen to those ones. So yeah, I think
this is why Jill likes me, because she likes to tell me the stories.
This is why I like you. I like you because you're my sister. There's other reasons.
Oh yeah, right, okay. I mean, this is why you like doing the podcast with me, because it's I don't know any of these cases, so you can tell me for the first time.
I didn't get a choice in the matter. I said to you, I'm thinking about starting up a podcast. And you said, I'll help. I didn't even get a choice. You just said that you were going to help. And I was going to do it by myself.
I think you've been boring.
Thanks.
I think I keep it interesting.
So, whatever. Right, anyway.
Oh yeah, sorry, where are we in the world today?
Where are we?
I don't know.
I think... Oh, I actually don't know. Oh, Canada.
See, and you think you'd be good on your own?
Canada. We're in Canada.
And what's it called?
You're not going to like the name of this, because...
Why am I not going to like the name of it?
Because it's sad.
Oh, God.
It's called The Broken Princess. Yeah, it's a child one.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to dive in?
Well, no, but yeah. Am I going to be upset?
Well, of course you're going to be upset. A child died.
Okay.
Right, you ready?
No, but yeah. Let's dive in.
Let's dive in. So, Meika Jordan was 6 years old. She lived in Alberta, which is in Canada. Mm-hmm. Meika and her little brother Levi spent half their time with their mum and stepdad, Kyla and Brian Woodhouse, and the rest of their time with their dad and stepmum, Spencer Jordan and Marie Magoon, which I don't think they were actually married, but still stepmom, stepdad.
Yeah.
Sorry, stepmom, stepdad, dad and stepmom.
Yeah,
sorry,
I got you.
So they had a couple of kids together, and I think Marie had 2 sons from a previous relationship. It didn't really go into. There was other kids, but it didn't really go into
too much.
Yeah, who had what kind of thing, you know.
Okay.
So, but Meika and Levi, they had the same mum and dad.
Right.
So Meika was a happy child who loved to sing and dance. She saw the good in any bad situation, and her stepdad said, quote, "This was a girl that I honestly don't think had the capability to have a bad day." End quote. For instance, like if it was raining and they were supposed to be like, say, going for a day out at the zoo or something like that, she wouldn't get upset about it. She'd be like, "Oh well, I'll just go and jump in some puddles." You know, like she'd make the most of everything.
Oh, that sounds like a happy little girl.
Yeah. And she was beautiful. Like when you see a picture of her, absolutely beautiful.
Aww.
So he said that you just couldn't take the smile off her face. Her favourite thing was to collect ladybirds, but then she had to set them free again just in case they had a family.
Aww.
Just in case his mummy missed it.
Oh, that's cute.
I know.
I like that.
So, but in 2011, there was a growing custody dispute between the parents.
Right.
And on one weekend, Meika and Levi were supposed to be with their mum and stepdad, so they'd obviously, but instead their dad and stepmom kept them, so they'd obviously been staying at their dad's, and rather than bringing them back, he'd kept them for a bit longer. I don't know how the mum...
Basically, the mum must have had like the main... Or did they have, like,
I don't know if it was sort of 50-50 or...
basically, they had their split times.
Yeah, they're split. Yeah. They're split.
So they had the agreements of when they would be having them, basically.
Yeah, and he never brought them back when they were supposed to come back, but I don't know if she was alright with that. You know how sometimes it's...
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's plenty of families that are like, oh, do you know what, I'll just bring them back tomorrow instead. And you're like, yeah fine. So I'm not quite sure how that was taken. But anyway, they did stay longer.
Right.
So, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
On the Sunday, which was the 13th of November 2011, the emergency services received a phone call. It was Marie Magoon, Meika's stepmom, saying that she needed an ambulance as her daughter had fallen down the stairs.
Right.
She said she was unconscious and she didn't think she was breathing. When the emergency services got there, they found Meika unresponsive and in full cardiac arrest. She was rushed to the hospital and police were called to investigate, as her injuries didn't add up with a fall down the stairs.
Right, okay.
Straight away, the house was cordoned off with police tape and treated as a crime scene. So they had only moved to that house 3 weeks earlier. So obviously, like, the neighbours didn't know them very well and things like that. Okay. So there was a man that lived next door. He made a statement and he said that he had seen a little girl at his neighbour's a few times and wondered why she wasn't at school.
So she was, obviously at that age, she should be at school.
Yeah, so he said she looked banged up and she had a look of fear in her eyes.
Okay.
He noticed some scratches on her face and he actually asked Marie, the stepmom, what happened to her, because he was concerned.
Yeah.
And Maria just says, oh, she falls a lot. Which, I mean, kids do.
Oh, yeah, I mean, they do.
I mean, you've got a nearly 6-year-old and...
Oh, yeah, she's forever...
Hey, listen, I'm in my 40s and I fall a lot, so...
Oh, yeah, it's true.
So it is I've always got bruises all over me.
She comes home from school and she's like, her leg's bruised, she scraped her knee. I mean, yesterday she stupidly... Our dad was out in the garage doing something, and to get back into my house, you come out the back of the garage and out the back door. She decided to put his size 10 trainers on. And she obviously, because I've got like a couple of steps to get in my back door, so of course she decided to trip up on that because, clearly to size 10 male shoes. And they came in crying her eyes out, and I was like, what's wrong? And she was like, oh, she had something in her hands where she went, oh, I broke this. And then she's going, I've scraped my leg. And I was like, well, why did she do that? And he was like, oh, because obviously I had like daddy's shoes on. And I'm like, well,
not the brightest tool in the box then, was she?
Exactly. So she's forever...
she's just like her auntie, isn't she? She's just like me.
Well, I don't know, I'm quite accident prone as well.
Yeah.
So
I think it runs in the family, doesn't it?
I think it does, yes.
Yeah.
Bless her.
So I think that guy was kind of like, all right, okay, and just kind of brushed it off, So Meika, obviously, when she got to the hospital, they checked her over. She had abdominal trauma. She had head trauma. She had bruising throughout her body. She had a severe burn on her left hand, and her hair was matted with bits missing, like bits of her hair missing.
Right.
And she had a torn lip, which indicated a blow to the mouth.
Oh, I've never heard of a torn lip.
Well,
like a burst lip.
Yeah. She was kept on life support until the next day, and at 1:47 p.m. on the 14th of November, Meika passed away.
That's not nice.
No. And I watched the memorials, a bit to the memorial service. Oh, so sad.
Oh,
so, I don't know why I do it to
I was
myself.
going to say, I don't think I could watch that.
No, there was a memorial for Meika was held 6 days after her death. Her coffin was tiny. It was white and covered in flowers, and there was a princess balloon floating above it. Meika's favourite song was playing, which was Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which is like, but it's not the slow version, like from, what's that from? Somewhere Over the, is that from the Wizard of Oz or something like that? Somewhere over the rainbow. But it's like the, when they play it on the wee guitar thing, the sort of upbeat version of it. Have you not heard that?
I don't think I've heard that. But...
You'll have to hear it, it's quite good.
Yeah.
So that's her favourite song. And there was like photos of her shown on the big screen. Oh, I was crying. So every night at bedtime when she was staying at her mum's house, that's the song that she would sing every night. And then bagpipes played, Amazing Grace, as her coffin was wheeled out. Oh, it was heartbreaking. It really was heartbreaking to watch.
I couldn't imagine, like...
I had to pause it. I was watching it and I had to pause it and compose myself because it was. I mean, like,
that's awful
for this little girl that I didn't even know, never even met. You know, just watching it was so sad. So, with Meika's injuries, it was hard to believe that she had just fallen down the stairs, and it wasn't long before police announced that Meika's death was no accident.
Right.
An officer from the Calgary Police Homicide Unit made an announcement which said, quote, "Police can now reveal that the blunt force trauma injuries sustained by Meika were to her head and abdomen. They are not consistent with a fall down the flight of stairs." End quote. So her dad and stepmom, Spencer and Marie, they were brought in for questioning. They both said that Meika fell down the stairs, but neither of them saw her fall.
Right.
And neither of them showed any emotion whatsoever.
I mean, I'm not being funny, but...
Oh, how can you not show any emotion?
Yeah. I mean, I think, not that I ever want to be in that position, but I would like to think I would be completely and utterly distraught, so...
Well, you would think. So, but they also made negative comments about Meika during their interviews, but I don't know what those comments were. It just... That's just what I in the research, that they had made negative comments. So I don't know if they'd said maybe something...
What, that she was misbehaved?
Maybe, I was going to say maybe better behaviour or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But to me, I mean, like that... Those are red flags, like, no emotion and making negative comments.
No,
like,
exactly.
Most people would be calling her an angel, like, that. This child could do no wrong kind of thing,
exactly.
She was innocent and,
Totally, yeah.
So there were more red flags in this case. Just weeks before Meika's death, her mum and stepdad, Kyla and Brian, had called Alberta Child and Family Services. Meika had some unusual scrapes and bruises when she returned home from a court-ordered visit with Spencer and Marie, which actually matched the story from the next door neighbour, when the next door neighbour said she was scratched and that. So when they saw that, they'd phoned the Child and Family Services, which...
So if my only question to that is if they've had these concerns,
why were they still going?
Why were they still letting her
that's
go
exactly what I was
until,
just about to say.
Until they had properly, maybe investigated it or queried what was going on, then I wouldn't have let my daughter go.
No, that's...
I mean, I know it's easy for me to say sitting here now,
But then again, it does say court-ordered. So if they're court-ordered, like, it's all very well for you to say, I don't want her to go, but if that's a court order, she would have to go. But why is the court still letting her go?
Yeah,
like, why is the family services still letting them go?
Yeah, because to me, if you've because it's fine if you've had that concern just with yourself and your family, and you've not been able to stop her go. But if you've brought that to an authority's attention, then to me the authorities should be putting a hold on that.
Definitely,
that
suspend the visits for now, or even have supervised visits.
Until they can establish if there is something.
Yeah, definitely.
Something's on, then I would have thought that would be the case, but
that was what first came to my mind. It's like, why is she still? Why is
Why
well
is
both of them as well? Like
Yeah.
you know, because there's Levi as well, the little our little brother. Why are they still getting to go and spend time unsupervised?
Yeah, exactly.
When there's those concerns, that didn't make sense to me.
No.
And of course, there was the burn. It was a 3-degree burn, 3rd-degree burn that was covered the palm of her hand.
Right. Okay.
So, sorry. So Spencer and Marie were actually caught on a wiretap trying to come up with stories to tell the police as to how Meika got her injuries. But they weren't like, I don't think they were arrested or anything like that. I don't know, maybe there wasn't enough. I'm not quite sure what that was about.
Right.
So we'll just sort of put that to the side for
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
Officers thought that with Spencer being the biological father of Meika, that he would maybe it would cause problems, because if it had been Marie that had caused the injuries, why would the biological father still be close with her?
Yeah.
Still, why a protector? Why
Yeah.
would he protect her? And then, but then they're like, but if it was him that had inflicted the injuries, that's his biological daughter. Like, why?
Well, yeah.
And even though she's the stepmom, she's not the biological mum. Why is she protecting him? Like, why
Yeah.
are they still
Why
really
they-
close to each other and protecting each other, kind of
Yeah.
thing?
Because I'm not even funny, but if that was me and I found out my partner, whether it was the step or biological,
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether it's
whatever it was, I would be like, well, no.
no, because I'd be like, well, it wasn't me that hurt her, so
Yeah,
it must have been you.
Exactly.
But the police pressure and the investigation, it actually brought them closer together.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so yeah, so as that's unusual because to the police, and often in these cases where a child dies in suspicious circumstances, for one, as we've been saying, the biological parent would usually be so upset that the stress would push them apart.
Yeah.
Or obviously, if the step parent was involved in any way in the child's death, then the biological parent would hate them. You know, they just does the same.
I would have thought.
As we've said as well, biological or not, it's a child. This is a child we're talking about. So, if one person has hurt a child, how could you
defend that?
Yeah, no matter who it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So, obviously, alarm bells were going off. So there was only one other person who saw what happened to Meika, and that was our little brother Levi. But he was only 4. But it was obvious through the interviews that he had witnessed abuse to Meika, but he was too scared to talk about it.
Right. Okay.
The officers attempted to interview him on 3 separate occasions, but they decided to rule him out as a possible witness to protect him from the investigation. He was just
too young.
He was just too young. Yeah.
What a shame, because I said he probably has seen and witnessed what's going on as well.
But they need to protect him, and and as I said, he was scared, and
he wouldn't feel. I mean, he would have an understanding of some level, but he wouldn't fully understand it all.
Yeah, I just think it would be a lot to put a 4-year-old through.
Yeah, totally.
So Brian and Kyla, his mum, mum and stepdad, they were thankful that Levi was spared from the investigation because he had made it clear he didn't like talking about anything to do with Spencer or Marie. He even said that he hates his middle name, which is Spencer. That's his dad's name. So he obviously seen what was going on.
Yeah.
But then whether he could have been threatened or anything, you just don't know.
Don't know.
So for the next few months, if you were following the case, it would seem that the police had hit a dead end. So because it just didn't look like anything was happening. Spencer was unemployed, and he had been for quite a while and was relying on benefits to pay the bills. They had a number of outstanding debts, but in 2012 it was a new start for them, and they moved on with their life, Spencer and Marie. So Spencer got a new business opportunity with good money, so life was improving. So during the same time, the police investigation was being scaled back, according to Spencer and Marie. So they weren't being hassled by the police on a daily basis. So they were like, hey,
So was Levi still going to stay with them and stuff?
No, I don't think so. I don't know.
Right.
But, well, I don't know if he would be. Well, if he hated speaking about them and stuff like that. I honestly, and maybe because there was an investigation, they maybe suspended it, but it wasn't mentioned. So to them, to Marie and Spencer, life was good.
Yeah, they were just getting on.
They were getting on with their life. The police investigation had been scaled back. They had new job, new money.
Nothing to worry about, basically.
No, nothing to worry about. So, now that they had some money, Spencer and Marie made some new friends. They had a new social circle. They were going on double dates. They were just loving life, basically.
Right.
So they were having drinks, playing poker. There was concerts. They were doing bungee jumps, going to hockey games, and their new friends didn't judge them like other people did, and they felt that they could trust them.
Mm-hmm.
So, nearly a year after Meika's death, there was a major break in the case. Police arrested Spencer and Marie.
Mm-hmm.
In a police interview, Marie had said, "Children are my passion. They've always been my passion." Like, how?
Well, yeah.
She told the detective that Meika frequently lied and needed to be punished. She was 6. That 6-year-olds lie. Your daughter lied to me the other day. What did your daughter tell me the other day? That she would rather eat chicken than ice cream. There's just no way. There's just no way.
If you offered her a chicken ice cream, she's eating that ice cream.
She's eating that ice cream.
Yeah.
I know her so well. And she kept trying to convince me that she would rather have chicken.
That's it. But the thing is, even if she does tell lies, I mean, you don't have to be violent with them to give them a punishment or to teach them not to lie. I mean, you can.
There's ways of dealing with it. Of course,
you can discipline them in much tolerated ways.
Most people don't.
Well, they're not
physically.
Violent. Yeah, I mean, you might get sent to your room, or you might get something taken off you. Or, for instance, at the moment, my daughter, I'm doing, a reward chart with her for stars and stuff like that. So she's got certain things. If she doesn't get a star.
Yeah. There's ways of
she doesn't get a treat at the end of the week because she doesn't get enough stars, etc. So there's much better ways than violence doesn't.
Of course,
anything.
No.
And clearly, only one person gets hurt at the end of it, and that's probably the child.
Yeah. So she'd said, quote, "Meika was in trouble for lying that day, and I was trying to get her to do 25 jumping jacks to get her out of trouble," end quote. That must be a punishment, doing jumping jacks. Which, we go back to your child again. Your child likes doing jumping jacks.
I know. She likes it. I mean, she was at her football training on Saturday, and part of the training was to do press-ups and stuff like that, so she likes it.
She likes that. So, I didn't see that as maybe it was a punishment to Meika,
maybe.
To me that just seemed like a very strange punishment.
Certainly not heard that.
I thought that was weird. I mean, if you told me to do 20 or 25 jumping jacks, that's definitely a punishment.
Yeah, you probably would do 5.
Yeah, well, if that. Boobs are too big. So the detective said, quote, "There's no way, based on the information we have, that this could be anything but a homicide," end quote.
Well, the thing is, once she starts spilling a bit of a story, and that story's not believable, then there's something that's happened there.
Yeah. Well, this is what he said to her, because this is in the interview. So Marie had said, "I don't believe that, honestly." And the detective's like, "Well, you're going to have to start believing it." And Marie said, "I didn't do any of this. I'm sorry, but I did not. I did not do this, and you're wrong. This is just wrong. I never hurt her. Trust me, I never have." And the detective said, "Well, it's either you or it's Spencer. Would you agree with me that it could be nobody else?" But the interview ended with Marie repeatedly denying her involvement in Meika's death.
But not saying anything about Spencer.
No, I don't, not from what I saw. It was only her interview talking about whether she did it or not.
Right.
So police located a doctor in Ottawa, Dr. Christopher Milroy. He was a forensic pathologist with a vast amount of experience in paediatrics. They asked him to assist them on the Meika case to look at all the medical evidence and provide the police with an unbiased opinion as to the timeline of the injuries.
Yeah.
So he was able to narrow that time frame to 24 hours from the time of her death. So the time of her death was 16 hours after she got to the hospital.
Right.
So that means that her fatal injuries to the head and the abdomen had to have occurred on that day, the day that she was taken to hospital.
Yeah.
So that eliminated some scenarios, like it eliminated the fact that it could be historical head trauma.
Right,
they know it's happened before.
Yeah.
It was on that day.
Right.
So when paramedics found Meika at Spencer and Marie's house, she was lying a few feet from a set of stairs. She had no pulse, her heart wasn't beating, she was dirty, her hair was matted with chunks missing. She had been tortured for days leading up to her death.
It's funny because when the ambulance service, I suppose, come, they must have to do a lot of looking at things like that, where was she lying?
Yeah.
As much as their first thought is to obviously treat the patient, they must have to take into account what's happened around them, because if it is sort of found that the death wasn't a natural or an accident or it was suspicious,
they'll be having to answer questions.
Because obviously, I'm assuming that's how they've had that information, because it would have been them first on the scene.
Maybe that's why they have two of them as well, so that one of them's maybe straight. So they've got two sets of eyes. So you're still seeing to the patient, but like maybe somebody's like.
I've never thought of it like that before, because I've always thought, when you call an ambulance, obviously their first thought is just to come in, treat the patient, but they must have to observe what's going on around and take into account how they found them.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. Maybe even how whoever's there with them, how they react, etc. Because I never really thought of it like that before. But
there you go.
It's not just a case of treating them. It's almost like they are detectives in a sense.
Well, they're first on the scene, aren't they? So
because everything's going to be
first responders. So I heard a recording of a phone call that Marie made to HealthLink, which I'm assuming is just like our NHS 24.
Right. Okay.
So she can, because she'd called just after midnight.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm assuming it's just like the out of hours.
Out of hours.
Our NHS kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
So the call was made on the 12th of November, just after midnight, nearly 2 days before Meika was rushed to hospital. So Marie said that she had a quick question. Okay. I was going to write it all out, every word for word, but then I thought, no, that's a bit long, so I'll just kind of give you a brief sort of summary. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Marie said she had a quick question. Her daughter had burnt herself the day before with a curling straightener. So, not quite sure whether it was a curling iron or a straightener.
Yeah.
She said it wasn't that bad of a burn, but it did blister, and she asked if she should pop it because it was drying up.
Right.
The HealthLink operator asked if Meika had been using the straightener, because she was like, she's obviously asked her how old she was, and she's like 6 years old and she's using a straightener. And Marie had said no, she had caught her using it, caught her playing about with it. Uh-huh. So the operator asked if Meika had felt any pain where the burn was, and Marie said no, nothing at all. And the operator was like, really?
I've burnt myself just slightly, and it's a big pain.
We have burnt ourselves plenty of times.
Exactly, and I mean, the smallest of burns is really, really sore. So if she's got it all over her hand, then
because this is the palm of her hand.
That must have been really sore.
And especially because we're moving your hand a lot, aren't you?
Yeah. So I wouldn't believe it.
So the operator was like, really? She's like, no, and the operator's like, but okay, I'm a bit concerned about that, because burns hurt. Yeah. And she asked Marie if the area was black or white, and Marie said it was white. And the operator said, well, a 3rd-degree burn turns white, and Marie was just like, oh, really? She just, no concern in her voice at all. Right. And the operator asked again, are you sure she doesn't have any pain? And Marie again said no. So that's all I heard of the call, so I don't know what was said after that. Right. But that story was a lie. Uh-huh. So anyway, remember when I said earlier it looked like the police had hit a dead end with the investigation? Uh-huh. Well, they were actually conducting an 8-month undercover operation. So this is how they managed to... Remember, I've said they got arrested. Yeah. So I kind of jumped ahead of myself, so now I'm going back.
So basically they made it look like to them that things were cooling off, but actually they were still...
Well, that's what I said. They were getting on with their life. The investigation had cooled off on them. They had new friends.
So that's what they thought, because that's what it made them seem, but the police were actually still properly investigating them.
Well, yeah, because... You'll probably never heard of this, because I've never heard of this, and I'm not actually sure because this is in Canada, and spoiler alert, the next case that I'm going to do is a Canadian one as well, and they do the same kind of operation on that one as well. So I'm not sure if it's a Canadian thing. Right. But anyway, it's called a Mr. Big sting operation. Okay. So it's a tactic used in a lot of major crimes and investigations. Police officers create very realistic scenarios and try to get suspects to confess. Right. So on the day that Meika died, police codenamed the Operation Sash, which it stands for Safe and Sound in Heaven. Aww. I know. Oh. So I know, it's horrible, isn't it? Yeah. In this particular case, undercover officers befriended Spencer and Marie, and they were invited into a made-up criminal organisation. So they would have to prove that they could be trusted. It sounded to me, when I was researching it, I thought, this sounds a bit unrealistic.
So what his business opportunity was like a...
Yeah, see, you're on the ball, you, aren't you? See all these new friends.
They were all fake.
Yeah.
Right.
So they would have to prove that they could be trusted by confessing to a crime that they were known suspects in, i.e. the death of Meika Jordan.
But see, to me, I mean, again, if I had done something, and then went on to make new friends, and they told me I had to... I'm thinking, well, why do you think I've committed a crime? Like, why? Like, or
Well,
why
remember, they're invited to him. They know that they're criminals. They know that this circle, because it says Spencer and Marie were invited to a criminal organisation, and they had to prove that they would be trusted.
Right. Okay.
So they do know that they're getting. But why would you want to get into a criminal organisation when you're a suspect of something?
Yeah, exactly.
See, that's what I mean. Like, to me, it seems quite unbelievable. But obviously, it's a thing, and it obviously sometimes works.
Before all this, they weren't involved in anything criminal.
Not that I know of.
So I'm always like, well, why
now?
Why do they feel like that's something that they'd want to do? I mean, we
ask too many questions, don't we? We're too suspicious.
I just wonder why the police would think that that's a good idea and that that's a way, like, to invent that. Like, what is it about them that they think that they were going to want to get involved in a criminal organisation? I mean, there must be something.
Maybe from, obviously, we only know a tiny little bit. We only know about this crime. So maybe what they know about them and maybe their past, maybe they've been involved with other stuff, with dodgy stuff. Like, I don't know. Maybe. But I was thinking at the time, I was thinking exactly the same as you, going, how are they believing that? But and this thing obviously works. This Mr. Big thing obviously works. Maybe not all the time, but it does.
Well, I'm assuming maybe not every scenario is the same, so it might not be a crime organisation this time. It might be another scenario that they think of.
Obviously, I only know about this one.
Yeah.
So.
Alright, okay.
So this would include each suspect paying a visit to Mr. Big. In reality, Mr. Big was an undercover police officer who played the role of a crime boss. So, remember I told you about 2012 being a new start for them? Mm-hmm. The business opportunity, new friends, doing a few, fun things. That was all a ruse, which we've already... You already figured that out before I told you.
Yeah, totally.
So each friend hangout or a business dealing was a scenario, an elaborate investigative technique used in these kinds of difficult cases.
See, that just clearly it's obviously true, but it almost sounds. How did they the stepdaughter's died. We've been investigated. All of a sudden, all these new friends are in our lives. I mean, if this is only all within a year as well, because
this is like 8 months.
So it's like, how? I mean, naturally, how does that even happen? I mean, I just.
But then, we're looking at it, from it's already happened. We're looking back at it. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
It happened. So.
Am I allowed to say the
No. So it was important to establish what each person did, as it played a role in Meika's death. So there was the stepmom and the biological dad living in the same house with other kids as well as Meika. So establishing who committed the act of violence against Meika was important, because obviously there's these other kids, which I thought they might have had them taken off them. But then if they're not being, at this point they hadn't been charged with anything. So it could have been one or it could have been both. So in this Mr. Big operation, that was the big question, was basically who did what.
Yeah.
I mean, they pretty much knew.
They were involved.
That they were involved in it, but they just didn't know how, like which one did what.
Mm-hmm.
So Mr. Big told Spencer that things weren't looking good, that he had heard that Spencer would be charged with murder. Okay. So, and I saw some footage of this conversation as well, like between Mr. Big.
So they were trying to call his bluff then a bit.
Yeah.
If he would confess to anything.
Yeah, basically. So, Mr. Big, they're coming to arrest you, they're going to throw your ass in jail. Spencer, that's what I figured. So, he was expecting that. Spencer was expecting that, which I was quite surprised at, because I was like, I thought they thought that their investigation was scaled back.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Big told Spencer that he couldn't help him unless he trusted him. And in order to trust him, he needed to know exactly what happened to Meika. Spencer, I ended up taking a little bit of anger out on my daughter. I didn't hit her, more or less just pushed her. I just pushed her, but I remember her falling back on her hard tile floors, and she smoked her head pretty good. So obviously she bashed her head. I've never heard it being called that she smoked her head pretty good. She must have hit her head hard.
Right, okay.
So the conversation went on for hours, and then finally Spencer said, I hit her somewhere in the stomach area and she fell over. I hit her hard. I guess the best way to put it is I didn't hold back. Imagine saying that a grown man didn't hold back on his 6-year-old daughter.
Wow, that must have caused, clearly caused
trauma.
Major trauma,
yeah. So next it was Marie's turn, and this is when police found out what actually happened to Meika's hand with the burn.
Alright, yeah.
So, Marie, I burned her with a lighter. I'm not proud of it, but that's what happened.
What, so she must have just sat there and...
Yeah, well, I'm just about to tell you.
Okay.
She admitted that she had put Meika in between her legs, grabbed her hand, and burned it with a lighter for 30 seconds. Can you imagine just...
That's awful.
For even just for a second, like, 30 seconds. And as the interview went on, she said more stuff. So Marie said she wasn't doing as she was told, and it was upsetting Spencer. And Spencer pushed her pretty hard. She was maybe there, and like she pointed her hand, and then the kitchen cabinets were there, and she pointed her hand. So she was like sort of showing them the distance. So Mr. Biggins said, so probably 6 or 8 feet away. And she went, yeah, it was pretty far. So basically, he pushed her like 6 or 8 feet.
Wow.
That's how hard he pushed her.
Really
yeah.
Hard,
And at one point, Marie, this is like I watched this. So at one point, Marie actually she picked a pillow up for the couch and she used it as a prop to show what she did to Meika. So she was sort of stood up and had the pillow, and she said she was standing over above her, holding her hands, kind of more getting mad and shaking. You know what I mean? So she was acting out on this pillow how she was shaking Meika.
Oh right, okay.
And then later in the interview, Marie said she fell down the stairs right because of me a couple of times, and it was my fault. Don't know how. Okay. And Mr. Big said, and did she hit her head? Oh yeah. That's what she went. She just went, oh yeah, like that.
Right.
And then a little while later, Marie said, yeah, and it bugs me that people perceive it as the Cinderella syndrome, like it was me, the mean, evil stepmother who hated Meika, and I beat her until the end because she wasn't mine, and it wasn't like that.
Well, I'm really funny, but you've sat and burnt her hand and...
I think you're the evil stepmother.
Oh,
yeah.
Totally.
Like, nobody... Who does that to a child? Who does that to anybody?
Well, exactly, that's awful.
So, the couple were ordered to stand trial for first-degree murder on the 23rd of March 2015. It was revealed that Meika had been repeatedly abused for 4 days. She was dragged up the stairs by her hair and thrown into her room. She was pushed hard and hit her head on ceramic tiles. There was the punch to the stomach. She was told to run up and down the stairs with her hands tied, and she was pushed down the stairs while she was doing that as well. So she got pushed down while she had her hands tied.
That's awful.
I know. Spencer and Marie were found guilty of second-degree murder. They were both sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 17 years. But the prosecution had been hoping for first-degree murder. But that wasn't the end of the court process. There were appeals and court rulings because, you know, they were adamant that they shouldn't have got that punishment, blah, blah, blah. So Spencer and Marie wanted their convictions overturned. So,
this time they got the worst.
Then more than 5 years after Meika's death, there was a rare ruling by the Alberta Court of Appeal. The convictions for Spencer and Marie were upgraded to first-degree murder.
Fair enough.
So I'm kind of thinking to myself, maybe if they just left it,
Oh yeah,
they would have just stayed at the second-degree murder because they were like, we want appeals, we want this, we want that. They were like, no, do you know what? Fuck it.
yeah.
You know,
I think
you've done
that's it. When
this.
people appeal, they don't always get a lesser sentence. I have heard of cases where their sentence does get increased.
Well, I think maybe part of that has to do with the fact that they are not accepting their punishment.
Yeah.
You know, they're going, well, no, actually, I didn't deserve that. And they're, of course you fucking deserve it. You killed a child.
Exactly.
So anyway, just the last sentence of it. Their upgraded sentence was life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years.
Good.
So yeah.
Well.
How could you do that? That's your child.
Well, no. So I mean, obviously, as we all know, you know, I've got a little girl who's nearly 6, and I mean, yes, she winds me up and stuff like that, but I certainly would never be violent, and I would never treat her like that. That's awful. You
would just never. That would never cross my mind.
That's it.
Because I think it hits home more when you've got a child that age, and well, obviously I don't have a child that age, but I mean, you know, she's my niece.
Yeah.
And she winds. I know what she's like. I only have her for a few hours, and she winds me up. But I would never ever dream of lifting my hand to her or pushing her or anything like that. I mean, I'll shout at her, and
yeah, of course.
You know.
That's what I mean. She'll get, you know, she obviously gets told off. She gets sent to a room. She gets things taken off her.
Yeah.
You know, as any normal child,
yeah, of course.
They do misbehave. They do, you know, push your buttons. But you can deal with that without
the violence. And to me, that's unnecessary violence.
Exactly.
I mean, that isn't that. If the child's misbehaving, that wasn't an impulse giving that child a slap, which is still to me is unacceptable.
Oh, yeah.
But more understandable if you just kind of like you kind of lost it. Like, I'm not condoning that in any way, but that to me that was totally unnecessary. Why would you sit for 30 seconds with a lighter on a child's hand?
Exactly. You want to cause her pain.
You want to cause her pain. Why would you push a child down the stairs? Why would you purposely tie her hands? Exactly. You know, to me that's not impulsive.
No.
Like, there's a difference. Yeah, you shouldn't hit your child.
Yeah.
But it's more understandable if it's an impulse thing. But to do that is deliberate. That's...
Well, it's like premeditated.
Yeah, you're wanting to cause your child pain. And I mean, they probably didn't want to kill her. I'm assuming that wasn't...
No.
That wasn't the...
But they certainly wanted to cause her harm and cause her pain.
Yeah, to do that, they were causing that child pain. And what on earth can a 6-year-old child do that would make you want to do that to her?
I know. That's just...
Because she lied and misbehaved.
Yeah, that's... I mean...
To me, that's normal behaviour.
Yeah, and I mean, no amount of bad behaviour excuses you doing that to a child. Or anybody for that matter, but... No. I mean...
Absolutely disgusting. I hope they rot in jail.
Well, yeah, I mean... Ugh. I wish they personally would never see the light of day again, but...
I know, absolutely awful.
That
so
poor little girl. What a shame.
I know.
Did not deserve that at all.
Nobody deserves anything like that, but especially, it's always, of course it's always worse. It's a child.
I know. That's it. I mean, you know, the parents, I'm not saying parents are perfect and stuff, but, you know, they're responsible and they care, you know, those little people put their trust in them, and, you know,
you're supposed to be able to go to your parents and be able to trust them.
They expect them to be cared for, and, you know, you look after them and stuff. And
in fact, it was her biological dad as well. It wasn't just the stepmom.
Well, I know.
You know, because you do get cases where it's maybe the step parent that's, you know, maybe doing things, and it just goes to show, like,
especially the poor mother. I mean, obviously you think that, you know, obviously they've broken up, they've split up, they've married and went with other people. You think that, you know, that you would trust them with their biological parents.
Yeah, you would.
They would be safe. I mean, she's sending her off thinking, oh, it's fine, she's safe.
She's with her dad,
She's with her dad, it's all good.
But I still think after she'd had those concerns and reported that to the family services, then Meika shouldn't, or Levi, both of them, they shouldn't have been allowed to go back. I mean,
because for all, you know, it might have been nothing and it could have been cleared up. And
she could have just... hurt herself or got into a fight with another kid, or it could have been innocent, but that should have been investigated, and the Meika and Levi shouldn't have been back.
No, because there's so many times, like, I've heard of, you know, when you hear of, like, child deaths, whatever, and if the social services or the child services have been involved, sometimes it's like they never seem to react quick enough. I mean, I know they have thousands of cases that they deal with, but there's, you know, a lot of times when, to me, the child services have failed in their duty to...
Well, we've seen quite a few cases where
to properly realise that something isn't right and something is going on, and I think that, you know, if a mother especially is or a parent, not necessarily a mother, but a parent has phoned with concerns about, you know, if they're off to another parent, then surely the first thing should be, right, well, we'll just suspend, just as a precaution.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily vilifying that other parent, but as a precaution so that they can investigate properly to make sure that ultimately that child is safe.
Yeah.
Then surely that's what you do.
That's, to me, that's what should have been done, because then Meika, that could have been prevented.
Yeah.
If they'd been suspended, and because that had only been a few weeks earlier, that the mother had reported that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, she must be raging because if she was like, brought that to you, and I mean, I know you're saying that it was like a court ordered visit as well, but then I don't know if maybe as a mother, maybe I'd be like, well, I don't care. Like, I feel that there's something wrong, so until you investigate, I'm not allowing my child to go, whether you've ordered me or not. I mean, again, it's easy to sit there and say that. I don't understand.
Yeah, you can't really say that
process, but
there's a process, and you know, as you said, like, she reported concerns, but maybe she didn't think that. I'm sure for in a million years she never thought that her child was going to die.
No, of course not.
You know, and as I said, like, she's reported her concerns, but for all we know, she might not have thought it was him or her. She could have just thought, well, maybe the house isn't that safe. Maybe she's just like fell over something, or maybe one of the other kids, because maybe they've got kids as well.
Yeah,
maybe they've got into a fight. She maybe doesn't necessarily know Well, of course she didn't know exactly
Well,
what was going on, otherwise she wouldn't have sent her kid.
Well,
If
yeah.
I reckon if she'd known exactly how bad it was, she wouldn't have sent Meika.
No.
So I think she didn't know, but I don't think it's, to be honest, I think it was up to the courts or the child services to step in and do something about that.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely.
It should have been investigated, and to me, I don't think there was any need for the child to stop seeing her parent or dad.
No.
It could have just been supervised.
Yeah, exactly. Just until they got to the bottom of the concern.
So I think it could have been prevented, but
I think a lot of these child cases where they've been abused by a parent or a family member or whatever, you do hear a lot of time the child services are involved or have been involved in some way. So you'd always think that it could be prevented, but.
Yeah, but I think a lot of things can be covered up and the child services don't realise as well, you know.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it's always their fault, but
I'm not going to sit here and defend anybody to the child services and whatnot. I just think a child died, so you know, and
there was
to
fault
me,
somewhere.
Yeah,
I mean, clearly with the dad and the stepmother, ultimately the blame's there, but there could have there might have been.
There might have been other steps. Well, I think there should have been other steps taken, but you know, it's not up to us. We don't know all the details, and you know, we're looking at it after the fact.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's easy for us to say.
Yeah, totally.
It's easy for us to say this should have been done, that should have been done. But
yeah, it always is, isn't it? Once you know what's happened, it's easy to say they could have done this, should have done that. But in the moment,
I'm sure that's the same in every single case.
In the moment of things, it's not always as easy as that, is it? So you have to appreciate that part of it. But sadly, you know, you wish something was done so that a poor little girl,
poor wee Meika.
Yeah, you know, she maybe didn't have, you know, she shouldn't have lost her life. She definitely shouldn't have lost her life.
No, of course not.
So
no child should ever have to lose their life.
No.
Nobody should have to lose their life in that way.
No.
So anyway, thanks for listening. Sorry it was a bit of a hard one this week.
That was a hard one this week.
Yeah. So if you'd like to follow us on Instagram or Twitter, we are
crime_divers_pod.
We have a Facebook page.
Crime Divers Podcast.
You can email us at
crime_divers_pod@outlook.com.
Oh, I was on such a roll there. What's next?
Come on, Patreon.
Oh, you can head over to patreon.com/crime divers and you can read the tiers there and see what you can get.
And you know what? If you like us, I mean, let's hope, can you please subscribe, rate and review.
Bye.
Bye.